The price of being nice. When your goodness becomes weakness, being nice seems like a virtue, but in the real world, it's often a silent sentence. The man who strives to please, who avoids conflicts, who bows to the expectations of others, pays a high price without realizing it. He gives away energy, strength, and authority instead of earning respect, becoming vulnerable and easily disposable. The nice guy is punished because life doesn't reward subservience. Every gesture of excessive kindness, every concession to avoid displeasure, every hesitation before an assertive choice is perceived by those who observe as weakness. And, in the context of human interactions, this weakness destroys the image of leadership, weakens posture, and reduces attraction. Limitless kindness is a silent trap, and many men fall into it without realizing it, believing they are doing the right thing. The invisible price goes beyond external perception. The man who completely gives himself to please loses energy, clarity, and the ability to take a stand. He becomes a hostage to the desire for approval, becoming predictable, vulnerable, and emotionally dependent on the acceptance of others. Every well-intentioned act, when without firmness, reinforces the position of submission and reduces one's own internal authority. Before moving forward, leave your age and city in the comments. This gesture is not just interaction, it is a sign of awareness, of being ready to understand the real cost of limitless kindness. If you are not yet subscribed, do it now. Subscription is a silent pact, a commitment to discipline, posture, and internal strengthening. The man who wants to become respected understands that kindness without control is not a virtue, but a weakness. Recognizing this price is the first step to recovering energy, posture, and authority. Error 1. Lack of decision. The man who never acts. The first critical mistake of the nice guy is indecision. The man who hesitates in the face of important decisions demonstrates fragility and lack of leadership, instantly reducing attraction and authority. Every choice not made, every delay in acting or positioning oneself creates a perception of weakness. The woman, consciously or subconsciously, perceives this hesitation as a sign of vulnerability, and interest and respect quickly disappear. Decision is not just physical action, but a mental posture. The man who does not decide gives away power without realizing it, opening space for others to occupy territory that should be his. Every instant in which you do not act allows the social or relational dynamic to be dictated by others, undermining confidence and presence. Indecision generates internal frustration, energy depletion, and loss of control over oneself in the situation. Furthermore, the lack of decision creates a domino effect. It weakens mood, energy, and clarity of purpose. The man who does not act becomes predictable, easily led by circumstances, and incapable of inspiring confidence. Leadership, perceived or felt, depends on the ability to make firm, quick, and strategic decisions, even under pressure or uncertainty. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you already missed by hesitating or doubting your own choices? How many times has indecision caused others to position themselves in your place, determining rhythm and control? Every moment of inaction is a brick in the construction of the image of weakness that you do not want to transmit. The first warning is clear. The man who does not decide gives away power before even starting the battle. True leadership, respect, and attraction begin with the ability to act with firmness, courage, and clarity, even when the terrain seems uncertain. Error 2. Lack of playfulness and lightness. The man with no life in his eyes. One of the most silent errors that destroys male presence is the absence of lightness and confident energy. The nice guy who worries excessively about pleasing or avoiding conflicts loses the sparkle in his eyes, reduces expressiveness, and transmits a lack of enthusiasm. The woman immediately perceives when a man seems lifeless, excessively serious, or emotionally rigid. Attraction fades because energy and vivacity are mistaken for power. Lightness is a strategic tool. Controlled humor, subtle jokes, and a confident posture generate magnetism, reinforce male energy, and create a perception of internal security. The man who loses this energy becomes predictable and unengaging because he only transmits effort to please. and not genuine desire or authentic presence. Every interaction without sparkle reduces dominance and reinforces the perception of weakness. Furthermore, the absence of lightness creates a domino effect. It intensifies insecurity, increases anxiety, and reduces the ability to generate interest. Energy and humor are not superficial. They are indicators of internal strength. The man who knows how to balance seriousness with lightness, assertiveness with controlled fun, demonstrates emotional control and psychological power without needing to verbalize. Ask yourself, how many times have you noticed that a lack of energy or a dull mood has harmed an interaction? How many times has the attempt to please, instead of expressing presence, reduced fascination or respect? Every moment without sparkle is a lost opportunity to demonstrate natural dominance and awaken genuine interest. The second warning is clear. The man without lightness and energy is perceived as weak, even if he tries to seem good. Presence, sparkle, and strategic humor are silent weapons that reinforce power, attraction, and respect. Error 3. Lack of certainty. The insecurity that drives any woman away. Insecurity is a silent killer of male attraction. The man who does not demonstrate certainty about his choices, intentions, and identity transmits vulnerability, weakness, and a need for approval. The woman, sensitive to subtle signs of dominance and energy, quickly perceives this lack of conviction and loses interest, even before evaluating character or real intentions. Certainty is not arrogance. It is internal clarity that is reflected in posture, tone of voice, writing, and actions. A secure man knows what he wants and acts accordingly, even in uncertain situations. He does not seek validation, does not over-explain, does not beg for attention. The woman feels this confidence as magnetism, natural attraction, and security, while insecurity transmits neediness and fragility, destroying attraction even before emotional connection. The lack of certainty manifests itself silently, but devastatingly. Wavering answers, hesitation in decisions, excessive explanations, and attempts to please. Each gesture weakens presence and reduces the perception of leadership and male energy. A nice guy who tries to please and submit rarely manages to project firmness or create genuine interest. Ask yourself, how many times have you already lost an opportunity by hesitating or doubting yourself? How many interactions have been harmed by the need for validation or excessive explanations? Each demonstration of insecurity reinforces the perception of weakness, while silent conviction transmits energy, power, and natural authority. The third warning is clear. Certainty is essential to generate respect, interest, and psychological dominance. The man who projects security without arrogance, conviction without the need for approval, establishes a position of strength and maintains control of the game from the first contact. Error 4. Lack of boundaries. The man who accepts everything to be accepted. One of the most lethal errors for the nice guy is the inability to establish clear boundaries. The man who always says yes, who accepts everything to be accepted, becomes predictable, vulnerable, and easily exploitable. He gives away power and energy silently, creating a perception of weakness that drives away respect and interest. The absence of boundaries transforms the nice guy into a doormat, destroying authority and reducing natural magnetism. Boundaries are the invisible sword of the disciplined man, defining what is acceptable, what will be tolerated, and how to react to external demands, projects posture, and internal strength. Without them, every gesture of kindness becomes a bargaining chip, every concession is a perceived weakness, and the nice guy loses position before even positioning himself. Respect, both in social interactions and in relationships, is built on clear boundaries. Their absence allows others to determine rhythm, energy, and attention, undermining dominance and authority. The problem is that the lack of boundaries is rarely perceived immediately. The effect is silent and cumulative. Men who constantly give in get used to their own submission, normalizing attitudes that reduce strength, confidence, and magnetism. The consequences are profound: loss of presence, decrease in male energy, and erosion of psychological power, making it impossible to generate genuine attraction or perceived leadership. Ask yourself, How many times have you allowed yourself to be led by the expectations of others, yielding beyond what you should? How many times has the absence of silent boundaries reduced your strength and authority without you realizing it? The man who establishes clear boundaries not only maintains control over his energy, but also reinforces the perception of power, attraction, and respect. The fourth warning is clear. Accepting everything to be accepted is giving away power and weakness before even being tested. Discipline, boundaries, and silent assertiveness are essential to maintain presence, strength, and male authority. Error 5. Lack of authenticity. The man who hides behind a mask. The fifth critical flaw is the loss of one's own identity in the name of pleasing. The nice guy who hides behind a mask, who tries to be what he thinks others want, loses authenticity, presence, and energy. He tries so hard to please that he forgets who he really is, creating a diluted version of himself that will never be respected or desired. Authenticity is the foundation of male energy. Without it, any strategic effort or attraction technique becomes superficial because the woman unconsciously perceives inconsistency, neediness, and insecurity. The man who constantly tries to please reveals fragility and dependence on approval, while true power lies in expressing conviction, posture, and personal values with firmness and naturalness. Living to please corrodes internal energy, confidence, and honor. Every forced concession, every phrase molded to impress, every action performed to be accepted creates invisible wear and tear, weakening body, mind, and spirit. The nice guy who masks himself becomes a hostage of his own creation, unable to act with freedom and power. Ask yourself, how many times have you already altered or hidden traits of yourself to please, realizing later that you lost authority and presence? How many opportunities to generate respect and genuine interest were compromised by not maintaining authenticity? The disciplined man understands that authenticity strengthens energy, dominance, and magnetism, while the mask only creates an illusion of power and real weakness. The fifth warning is clear. Hiding to please transforms the nice guy into a doormat and destroys energy, posture, and male authority. The true man projects authenticity, maintains identity, and creates presence effortlessly, becoming respected and powerful. The invisible cost of living to please. Living to please is not just exhausting, it's devastating. Every act of concession, every decision made to be accepted, corrodes vital energy, reduces internal strength, and undermines clarity of purpose. The nice guy who believes that pleasing is the path to respect or attraction is, silently, paying a price he doesn't realize. Mental, emotional, and spiritual wear and tear. The invisible cost goes beyond small defeats. It manifests itself in weakness perceived by others, loss of posture, and a decrease in natural magnetism. The man who constantly seeks external acceptance places himself in an inferior position, becoming vulnerable to manipulation, rejection, and frustration. Every act of submission weakens male energy, while discipline, purpose, and presence slowly fade away. Furthermore, the wear and tear is cumulative. Every interaction molded to please reinforces patterns of behavior that reduce confidence and presence. The body feels the exhaustion, the mind disperses, and the spirit loses the ability to fight with firmness. The man becomes predictable, unable to generate respect or genuine interest, and life becomes a silent battlefield against his own weakness. Ask yourself, how many times have you already sacrificed yourself to please, realizing too late that your energy and posture were corroded? How many opportunities were lost because you put yourself in the background, trying to meet the expectations of others? The seventh warning is clear. Living to please corrodes strength, discipline, and energy. The man who wants to regain respect and authority must interrupt this pattern, rebuild habits, and re-establish control over body, mind, and spirit, recovering presence and freedom. Why women test men? The woman doesn't test out of malice, but out of instinct. She assesses leadership, confidence, and male energy, often in the simplest subtleties. The test can come as an indirect question, a delayed response, or a subtle provocation. The man who gives in easily, demonstrates anxiety or a need for approval, reveals weakness. The one who maintains posture, energy, and psychological dominance demonstrates strength and creates instant respect. The female test functions as a natural filter. It separates confident men who maintain self-control and authenticity from those who depend on external approval to feel valued. Each reaction of yours is perceived unconsciously. Posture is measured, energy is felt, and interest is adjusted according to the internal dominance demonstrated. A disciplined man recognizes the patterns, interprets the signs, and acts strategically. He doesn't need to prove anything. He projects presence, maintains control, and conducts the interaction with consistent male energy. The ability to deal with tests without giving in to anxiety is a crucial differentiator between respect and submission, attraction and disinterest. Ask yourself, how many times have you failed to maintain posture in the face of subtle signs? How many times have you given in to the expectation of approval and lost authority? The man who understands the tests learns to respond with firmness, maintain emotional control, and project energy that generates curiosity and respect. The eighth warning is clear. Female tests are natural, and how you respond determines whether you maintain power, respect, and interest. The man who projects psychological dominance transforms each test into an opportunity to strengthen presence and authority. The internal change, how to rebuild your posture. The man who perceives the price of being nice understands that change is not superficial. It starts from within. Rebuilding posture requires discipline, self-awareness, and constant practice. Each old habit that reinforces submission must be replaced by deliberate action. Each impulse to please must be intercepted and transformed into an expression of control, energy, and authenticity. Reconstruction begins with small decisions, repeated daily. Positioning oneself in social situations without giving in, expressing an opinion without fear of rejection, maintaining clear boundaries even when there is pressure to yield. The disciplined man understands that each strategic gesture strengthens internal presence and projects external authority, while each concession reduces strength and visibility. Furthermore, internal change involves perception of one's own energy. A conscious man monitors posture, tone of voice, body language, and choices, adjusting behavior according to the intention of maintaining psychological dominance. He does not seek validation, but creates fascination and respect through consistency, conviction, and authenticity. Ask yourself, how many times have you tried to please without realizing that you were weakening presence and energy? How many opportunities to gain respect were lost by not being aware of posture and self-control? Reconstruction requires attention, discipline, and continuous action, transforming fragile habits into a solid structure of male authority. The ninth warning is clear. Internal change is essential to abandon the role of the nice guy and become a firm, respected, and magnetic man. Each conscious step strengthens body, mind, and spirit, re-establishing presence, energy, and control. The respected man doesn't ask for love. He imposes presence. True male authority is not conquered by what is offered, but by what is projected. The man who understands his value does not ask for love, does not beg for attention, does not bow to external expectations. He imposes presence, maintains firm energy, and conducts interactions with consistent posture and authenticity. This is the pinnacle of transformation, the conquest of respect through internal control and psychological power. This is the moment for reflection and commitment. Leave the word strength in the comments. More than just interaction, it is a silent oath, a pact with discipline, posture, and internal power. Each conscious choice strengthens presence, energy, and authority. Each daily resistance reinforces psychological dominance and natural magnetism. Subscribing to the channel is not just a click. It is a seal of commitment. Each video, each alert, each step is training. Each interaction is an opportunity to reinforce posture and energy. The disciplined man remains firm even in the face of challenges, tests, and invisible temptations. He projects authority, maintains respect, and dominates each situation without apparent effort. Reflect. Control is in your hands. Whoever dominates posture, energy, and self-awareness dominates their own destiny. The nice guy who learns to impose presence rebuilds strength, honor, and respect, becoming unbeatable in any situation or test. Stay on the screen. The next video is already appearing. and the war continues.